What is going on, Entre? This is day 38 of the 90-day challenge. Really quick, I wanted to mention that I was catching up on other people's 90-day challenge videos this morning, and one of the ones that kind of caught my attention, well, they are all great, but one in particular was Jeff the Cheddar Man. He had pointed out the fact that his day that he had posted for today happened to match his age, and it just made me realize, like, oh yeah, that would have been mine yesterday on the 37th. So anyhow, what's going on, Cheddar? But for the rest of the morning and the day, started off with a kid heading back home. My nephew, he made it back just fine. Talked with his parents when they got back, and they happened to say that he had really enjoyed himself here. So that really makes his uncle a happy camper as well. That was a really good visit. But for the rest of the day, it involved a lot of getting deep with the funnel and getting familiar with that and getting more familiar with my customer avatar. And that was really fun to get more familiar with it and getting more of a feel on things, which that is progress in its own, especially when it's all new. Just getting more efficient because you're practicing and one thing leads to another. It's getting better in that regard. I was just thinking about a story in regards to what I've been doing for the past 18 years, which happens to be in correlation with my niche. So my niche, to be more precise, my experience is working in the golf course maintenance industry for the last 18 years. And my niche is honed down to where I use that experience and incorporate it into the home lawn. So for those who appreciate the aesthetic qualities that go into the golf course, they can have it in their own lawn. And that's what I intend on sharing value with. So to explain that, yeah, that's how that works out for me in my niche. But anyways, it made me think of a story. So I graduated from Washington State University back in May of 2009. Finally got that degree after 8 years. That's another story. But I ended up moving over to the East Coast because there was nothing available on the West Coast for work. So I ended up going to a place called Westchester Country Club in Rye, New York. And when I got there in May, not long after that, there was a production company that came out to utilize the front of the hotel, which was built in the 1920s, and it was the HBO TV show called Boardwalk Empire. So that was fun to see. They utilized that old building for that show. I ended up seeing a guy, his name's either Michael Shannon or Shanahan. I guess he was in that show. I remember him in the movie 8 Mile, but I can tell you anything else about him. I recall him getting up off the bench when he was reading a script to get away from someone that was bothering him and watching him walk away. And he was like, I don't know, he's a tall, skinny guy. That's much as I remember about him, the description of him. So that happened. And then a few months later after that, one day I was working with this guy named Mark. He was an intern from England. We were working throughout the morning together. We ended up going to the lunch room where all the other people that work there at the golf course from other departments eat there together. Overheard some commotion that Will Ferrell and John McEnroe were out golfing together. So Mark, the guy that I was working with, we ended up driving around the whole golf course. He was really hard pressed on finding Will Ferrell. Figured out where he was at finally at one moment. He was on 17 tee box. So we ended up driving over to 17 Green because there was a project renovation going on. And so we grabbed a couple shovels and started working over there. I happened to be working at this one spot that was right next to the green. At one point, as I'm working, I see a ball hit the green, roll up near me. Didn't think much of it. Went back to work. A couple minutes later, I could feel in my peripheral someone was right next to me. So I look over that direction, and there's Will Ferrell kneeling down, marking his golf ball, looks up at me, sees what I'm wearing. It actually happened to be one of those WSU turf management sweatshirts I've worn in the past videos. And he had a mention on it, which was, ooh, you're a Cougar. Yeah, I'm a Cougar. I feel sorry for that football team. So he happens to be from USC. That was a school he went to in his day. His school, my school, were both in the same conference, the Pac-10. Now it's Pac-12. It's a little different. A couple of schools have been added since, but nonetheless, so that was kind of fun to see. Even John McEnroe is everything you would imagine him to be as well. He expressed his emotions very loudly, and it resonated very well from several holes away. So he is definitely everything you would think he'd be. But it made me start to think that I'm getting ahead of myself. Actually, not long after that, the movie, not the new guys, the other guys that Will Ferrell was in with Mark Wahlberg at that time, they were shooting a scene in a house right next to the golf course, and so they actually utilized a lot of that road right next to the place, the facility of the course. And they were there for about 4 or 5 days, not quite a week. But the scene that was in the movie was like 5 to 10 minutes long. It made me think that, reflecting on this story of seeing this over there, was the fact that they commit so much time, so much effort into people, that they require this much, and that's how dedicated they are to shoot such a short portion of the movie to make it happen. It makes me realize that it's a lot like what we are told through our coaches, through Ancha, through others that have gone through this successfully, that this is a lot of work and a lot of commitment. For example, working in front of this camera, there's a lot of prep work and going to scripting, the editing, everything else I'm not even aware of yet. But it's very nice to have Antra, this group, and so many of them that have gone through this process to be here to motivate us in a way that they already know the steps, and they can already tell us the most efficient way possible. But one of the biggest things that I hold on to was the fact that Andy Benson is really good at this, and he was actually on this morning in the Weekly Dose of Excellence with Rod. The topic this morning was a little different. It was actually really, really good. I encourage you guys to go watch that if you haven't. But anyhow, what Andy does is he reminds everyone often that this takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time. Don't give up, because you don't realize how close you are to getting to that next step. So I really hold on to that one just to remind myself. Like, sometimes I get a little frustrated being human, but I think about that a lot. Anyways, that's just a story I would want to share and try to incorporate it with what we do in our group. So anyways, this is 38, and we'll see you tomorrow on 39. We'll see you then. Thank you.